Welcome everyone to the day 2 of 3.6 basic certification training. Let's wait for a few more minutes until everyone's here. Welcome everyone to day 2 of the 3.6 basic certification training. And today in the module we are going to see about zip trunks. And yesterday's module we saw what's 3.6 free and what is 3.6 hosted, and we installed the 3.6 free instance. and we saw how to install a 3.6 hosted instance directly from the 3.6 partner portal. And also we looked at all the different app options available around the 3.6. And yeah, so let's continue through to today's module, which is SIP trunks. And feel free to post any questions on the chat regarding today's module or related to yesterday's module or anything related to 3.6. So SIP trunk is basically a voice provider, and there are a number of voice providers available in Australia that can be used with 3CX. Which basically provides access to a PSTN network. So the 3.6 is just a phone system, so which can be deployed either in cloud or on premise, depending on where you want. But with the phone system alone, so you can only make internal calls and stuff. But for the 3.6 to connect to the outside world, you need a SIP trunk to be connected to the 3.6. So that's where the SIP trunk comes in play. So basically it transports via the existing internet line. So VoIP is basically voice over internet protocol. So the 3.6, whenever there is a call comes in, so it goes through the voice provider to the 3.6, and when you dial out, so it's going to go from the 3.6 through the SIP trunk or the voice provider to the outside world. And no additional local hardware required because everything is software based with VoIP. And yeah, it can also provide international, they can also provide international numbers and outbound pay local rates through their point of presences, and inbound show global presence to your customers. And as I mentioned yesterday, so it's always a good practice, or it's always good to use 3.6 preferred or 3.6 supported SIP providers. And also with the 3.6 free version, you can only use the preferred and supported SIP trunks, and you can also use the supported with limitations as well. And you cannot use a generic trunk or things like that with the 3.6 free version. And the reason why it's always recommended to use 3.6 preferred or supported SIP trunk is those trunks has been interop tested with the provider and the 3CX with all the features, and they have the predefined template already. So all you need to do is go add the trunk and select the provider, and it's going to predefine all your pre-fill all the template and stuff. You just put in the authentication ID and password, and boom, it's registered. And also there are like ongoing testing, like regular testing between the trunk and the 3.6 to make sure everything is working right. So you don't, for example, you have a third-party provider and you're using a generic trunk, and something changes on the 3.6 and the provider doesn't like it, you might face issue, and you need to figure it out on your own to see what changes has been made, and you need to manually adjust the parameters, and the vice versa. Let's say the voice provider, third-party voice provider you're using had some changes to their parameters also, and the 3.6 will stop talking or having issues with the voice provider. And it's also something that you need to deal with your own to with the voice provider, because 3.6 will not support when you're having issues related to a third-party voice provider. So their support is included only if you're using preferred or supported SIP trunk provider. And so the template is already available in the 3.6, and since the template's already there, it's easy to configure. You just add it, select the country, select the provider, and put the authentication ID and password, because everything is like before. And the supported and preferred are fully supported by 3.6. And so what is a DID? So DID is basically, DID stands for direct inbound dialing, which is a normal phone number or a local number or a virtual mobile number. So that's what the ID points to. So basically you have a trunk that establishes a connection between the 3.6 to the outside world. But how does it know like which number needs to route to where? So that's where the phone numbers comes to play. So let's say you have a trunk with Breeze Connect and you're connecting to 3CX and you have 10 users with different numbers. So you have the 10 numbers on the trunk. So whenever a call comes in on the, any of those number, it's going to send the call to the 3CX. And from the 3CX, you can assign it to or route it to wherever you want to route it to. So for example, so you can route the incoming calls to destination based on the dial number. So you can either send it to a user, which is an extension. So for example, if someone has a direct number, so you can send it to a user directly, or you can put that to a department. Departments are available only on the dedicated instances, which is Pro and Enterprise. It's not available on the free version. Or you can send it to a system extension. For example, you have a 1300 number or a main number that you need to route. You can route it to like a ring group or a digital receptionist or an IVR or a call queue and things like that. Or let's say you have a number that specifically just need to go to voicemail of a user. Yes, you can also do that. You can route it to the voicemail box directly to a user or to a group. When I say group, it's basically department or so. And forward to outside number, let's say someone has a second number and that's they are using it just for outbound calls. So just for like after hours, and then they want that number to always be diverted to an outside number. Yes, that's also possible. You can just send the call directly to the outside number, which can be a mobile number or any other number. And fax service, if you have a fax number, you can send it to the fax server directly on the 3CX, or you can send it to a call through app. So adding a DID, so you can add it either one by one or import it from a .txt file. So both the ways you can do it. I'll show you all these stuff during the demo after this module. And it's always preferred to have E164 format, which is basically the number is entered with plus and the last 60 ID numbers. So basically something like a +61 and followed by the state code, let's say 8, and then the rest of the 8 digits. And also you can use star or the asterisk for the wildcard for DIDs, but it cannot be used for the main trunk number. So when you're adding DIDs, you can add any wildcard, like any number matches other than that goes to a particular user or to a bring group or things like that. You can do it. And DIDs with the wildcard cannot be used as caller IDs, because when you use that as a caller ID, when you let's say you're sending calls from an asterisk and the other side seeing that as an invalid number, it's going to directly reject the call. And outbound rules. So outbound rules is the one that the option that controls how the calls will be sent outside the 3CX and through which trunk. It can be used to like allow or restrict calls to a number, and you can also like select the SIP trunk based on the criteria of the destination number prefix or originator internal user, or the user based on department membership or the dial number length. So this can also be like let's say your provider only accepts number as 61 and the customer is too lazy or doesn't want to type 61 all the times. So what you can do on the 3.6 is you can set on the outbound rule something like if the number is dialed just with the local 8 digits, with the outbound rules, you can say it to add or prefix a 618 or 612 in the front and send the calls outside like 612 plus the rest of the digits. So things like that you can do it. Or for example, they don't want to dial local digits, or they also don't want to dial like as a 6-1 format. What they can do is if they just dial like 04 or 02 or 08 numbers, so you can set up the outbound rule something like you can remove the 0 and add a 6-1 or a +6-1 depending on how the voice provider likes it to be received. So that thing you can do it through the outbound rules. And yeah, so for example, so you can also like set routes directly through the outbound rules, and but it always PBX will route call to one. So for example, with the screenshot below, so you're setting the route 0 to the voice provider, and if you want to super digit, you can do it, or prepend something like 61 or something, you can do it, or if you want that to be use a specific outbound caller ID, you can do it. And if route one is busy, or all the channels on the route one, let's say route one VoIP provider has like two channels and it's fully occupied, so you can ask the 3CX to use has have a like a failover or a secondary route that it can use to. So basically, if busy is exceeded maximum calls allowed through the trunk, and unavailable is not received or responded within 32 seconds from the trunk, the previous the 36 automatically tries to place a call on the next route available. So you can create up to like 5 routes on each outbound rules. And emergency number, that's one of the crucial. So identify all emergency number and make sure you do not create extension numbers using those emergency number. For example, if you use a 3-digit number pattern, please do not create an extension or admin user with 000, because when someone tries to dial internally, like to call an emergency number, it's going to dial the extension, so it won't send the call directly to the user. So it won't send the call to the emergency number. It's just going to try dialing the user. So make sure you identify all the emergency number and make sure you do not create extension with that particular emergency number. And outbound caller ID. So the basically the number to show when calling out. And there are 3 places where you can send the set the outbound caller ID. So basically on SIP trunks or per user or per outbound route. And there are when you set out different caller IDs on 3 places, it also has a specific priority. For example, let's say if you're calling from a SIP trunk, it goes through your trunk and uses the caller ID, and you go through the default outbound caller ID. And you can also set it to the user level. So if you go to the user and user general, so there is outbound caller ID option. And per outbound route, so you can set different caller IDs if you want to have show a different number to the outside. So you can also set it there. All these 3 options, I'll show you how to where to set those during the demo today. And use correct outbound caller ID formats, because different providers works with different caller ID. Some providers accept like +61, some providers accept 61, and some providers accept like 08 or 03 or things like that. So the basic, so make sure you always ask the provider like which format they prefer, and follow that format, because let's say your provider likes the number to be in 61 format and you send the number as +61, the call sometimes may get rejected, seeing that as a not a valid format. So make sure you always confirm with the provider which format they use, and make sure you enter the number in the outbound caller ID in the particular format. For example, Breeze Connect, so we use the format as 61 and the rest of the digits. So yeah, so we always recommend the partners to set the number as 61 or add the number to the trunk as 61. So that's how you do it directly. And yeah, so that's everything on the SIP trunk. So just give me 2-3 minutes. I'll be back and I'll start with the demo. You can have a 2 or 3 minute quick break and I'll be back soon, guys. Sorry for that. Sorry for that, guys. And yeah, let's begin with the demo. Let me bring up the correct screen. Yep, cool. So this is the same trial instance that we created yesterday. So yeah, let's go to zip trunk. So voice and chat. So that's where you add your zip trunk. And see, this is the router phone that we added yesterday. It automatically got added as SBC. And let's try adding a zip trunk. So add zip trunk, selecting the country as AU, and these are all the preferred provider, supported provider, and generic trunks. And I'm choosing Breeze for now and clicking OK. So you can see all these stuff and the parameters, everything is like pre-filled, caller ID policy and everything. It's because Breeze is one of the preferred and supported provider, and they have predefined templates already available on the 3C. So I'm going to put that as test trunk, and you can see the default route. I can set it to a user or directly end a call or voicemail box, ring group, digital receptionist, queue, departments, or call processing script, or forward to an outside number, and main trunk number. So yeah, I'll use this as an example. So let me see. There are no DIDs. Let me add a DID in here. Yeah. So the number is there, and I'm putting it in here, and we got the authentication ID, authentication password. So that's it. So I've just given it a name. So added the main trunk number, authentication ID, password, save. And if I go to voice and chat, so you can see the test trunk is already registered. And if I click refresh in here, so I can see it's registered already 8 seconds ago. So that's how quick you can register a trunk and trunk with 36. And if I go into the trunk, if I say I wanted to add additional DIDs or more DIDs to the same trunk, so if I have those DIDs, just assume that there are like multiple DIDs in here. I can just go to DIDs and add DIDs directly from here. So add it, sorry. So I'm adding the same DID and let's say 6, the next number, and click save. So, and then 7, and I can see, so I'm adding it. So if I go to the trunk and I can see those DIDs, so there is the 3725, 3726, 3727, and yes, so that's how you add DIDs, or you can import a DID directly from here, so from a CSV file. And options, you can, if you have multiple trunks on the same 3CX or multiple departments, you can restrict to either, you can put it to system wide, or you can put it to department wise, like either default department or sales department or support department and things like that. And you can also, by default, the number of simultaneous calls per trunk is set to 10, but you can increase or decrease it depending on what number of calls that you want to allow through that particular trunk. And if convert inbound caller ID to E164 format, it's basically if you want to switch on the caller ID for E164 conversion. Reformat inbound or outbound caller IDs. So that's basically when, for example, let's say you're receiving calls from a carrier that always follows 6-1 format, but the customer, like the end user, so when they are seeing the number on their phone or their 36 app or their desk phone, they want to just see the local number, 8 digits. So at that time, what you can do is the inbound reformat inbound caller ID. So you can set something like calls with a source pattern, like let's say 61 and then the rest of the digits. It will remove the 618 and just show the rest of the digits, or 612 and the rest of the digits, depending on the call. So that's how the reformat inbound outbound caller ID comes in play. Yeah. So this is where I mentioned the three places where you can use outbound caller ID. So the zip trunk is one. So that's when the if you not have so let's say you have like multiple DIDs on one single zip trunk, and you don't any calls going through the trunk. So you want everything to show the main business number. So if anyone making an outbound call, it needs to show the main business number. Then you can put the DID in here. Let's say I'll put the same DID. Oops, not that. So let's assume that that's the main business number. So any calls going through this trunk, I want to show this caller ID, and that's how you say. And yeah, so these are the other parameters that you can play with. But if you're using a preferred or supported zip trunk provider, then everything is like predefined. So you make sure you not change it. Even the codecs and everything is set to the provider's preference. And I'm clicking save. And yeah, if your provider has SMS option, so for example, Breeze Connect has SMS feature available, so the template automatically included the SMS to here. For example, if I'm adding another trunk, let's say Alloy or so, and you do not have the SMS option over there, so that's basically mean the provider doesn't support SMS feature. So, but here's if you have SMS, all you need to do is enable, give this webhook to Breeze Connect, and they'll Breeze Connect portal, and the portal will give you API key and the provider URL. You just put it in here and save, and you'll also enable SMS for this particular trunk. So you can use SMS and calls directly from one single trunk. So that's basically everything on the zip trunk. And when I say like parameters will be different for each provider, so these are not the only three parameters that's available. There are hidden parameters that, for example, if I go here and export the trunk, and if I open that, let me see which screen it's opening. Yeah, that's not the flat screen. Yeah, you can see all the parameters. So from the 3.6 view, you can only see like the three, or I think this three. So depending on it, so you can only see the inbound parameters. There are like multiple outbound parameters. So let's say you're using a third-party provider, so you need to tweak each and every one of them to make sure it's following the correct format and supports the correct format that the voice provider supports. So that's a lot of like tweaking, because if you go to zip trunk options, not that, here, so basically it's if the provider has a set of a set parameter that you want to use, you can use it straight away. But if not, you're using a third-party provider, you're taking the risk, then you need to do a trial and error for each and every option to see which is the particular one that the provider is looking for. So that's why it's always recommended to use the supported or a preferred zip trunk provider. And outbound caller IDs. So let's go here, and before that I'll show you how to where to add the CLI for the user level. So if I go to user, you can see it's outbound caller ID directly from here. So I can add an outbound caller ID, let's say 618-707-85300, and that, and I'm hitting save, and boom. So you can see that whenever I make an outbound call, it's going to show that as the outbound caller ID. And let's go to outbound rules. So that's basically one main thing you need to keep in mind is the outbound rules as the priority, or the order of the outbound rules is important, because it checks from top to bottom. So if I go to here, I'm going to use this as let's say local and national. So calls with prefix 02 03, 04, 07, 08. And calls from extension. If you want this rule to be specific for an extension, you can add it in here. If not, if it is global, you can leave it blank. If the trunk needs to be used by a specific department, you can add it in here. If not, you can leave that blank. And calls with the length of, so all these local numbers and mobile numbers, so that's a length is 10. So now I'm asking it to, for route to use the test trunk, which is the one that we created. And with Breeze, it's always 6-1 format. So what I do is I select strip one digit and prepend a 6-1. So what it basically does is, let's say if I'm dialing a number as of 87078530. So I'm dialing the number as 08, but when it goes through the outbound rules, what it does is so this it passes this rule and it removes the 0 in the front and automatically prepends a 6-1, which you won't see, but that's what the 36 is doing in the background, and send it to the voice provider. And so since it's sending in the correct format for the voice provider, the call will automatically get accepted. And I'm saving this. And let's say the customer wants to dial local digits. So I'll say maybe local, and calls with prefix. Either you can leave it blank if it is going to be anything between 0 to 9, or you can also enter 0 to 9 manually. So because that's basically the same. And calls from extension or calls with length of 8 digits, which is the local dialing. And I'm going using the same trunk and no digits because the 8 digits it's automatically dialing. And let's say it's Adelaide number, so I'm adding 618. So whenever I'm dialing just 8 digits, let's say 70785300, it's automatically, when the call goes through the outbound rule, it sees the length is 8 and it starts from 0 to 9, so it automatically adds a 618 in the front and send it to the call voice provider. So that's how you can play with the outbound rules, and it always checks the rule from top to bottom, so make sure the rules are in the correct order. The reason why is, let's say you have this rule and you have another rule for 13 numbers. Calls with prefix, you're entering that as or 1300 and 1800. Yeah. Or let's take 6-1 as an example, and calls from, because you can dial 6-1-000, 6-1-1-3, and the 1-3 number, 1-300 number. So I'm making the length is 6 to 18, and calls with length of calls starting from I'm leaving blank because it can start with anything, and calls with 6 to 18, and I'm asking it to go through the trunk, and if call starts with 6-1, so it automatically passes through. So let's say if this one is at the top, and because the length we set as 6 to 18, it also matches the number 10, the 10 digit. So when you're dialing a 04 number, it checks the first rule and it just automatically matches, because calls with prefix anything and calls from extension anything, length of digits is 10 and it matches, and it's going to try to send the number directly, like 08707853D00, and the provider will not like the pattern because it's not adding a 6-1 to the front. So you need to make sure the order is always right, and so that it checks from top to bottom easily. And also with the caller IDs, whenever outbound caller IDs, whenever you're making a call, so from the user, so let's say from this user, you have this caller ID and it sends the call out. So it's going to go through the outbound rule and see which rule it needs to follow through, and it just follows through that. So it strips the let's say I'm dialing a 04 number, a mobile number, it's going to strip on add 6-1, And the priority of for the caller ID is the user and the trunk and the outbound caller ID. Because if you have a caller ID A on the user and caller ID B on the trunk, when you're making a call, if someone complains that I'm having a different caller ID on the user, but it's showing the different number when I'm calling out, that's because they have a different caller ID on the trunk level, and that has more priority to the user level. If you have nothing on the user level or the outbound rules, then it follows the user level caller ID. Let's say you have one a caller ID A on user, caller ID B on trunk, caller ID C on the outbound rule. So the outbound rule is the last place where the call goes out. So technically, so it's going to use this trunk, and if nothing is in here, so it's going to use the caller ID from here. But if there are any caller IDs in here, then it's going to so when you're making a call from a user, so the trunk will override the caller ID on the user level. And when it goes through the outbound rule, if there is a caller ID C on the outbound rule, it's going to override A and B directly. So it's going to send the call from here. So the priority order is so the user level as the least, and the trunk level, and the outbound rule as the most. So basically, that's the hierarchy of the caller IDs. So if you have a customer that's complaining, saying, I have a different caller ID here, but it's showing a different number, so that's where you can look. So you need to check if there is a caller ID set somewhere, so you can make sure it shows the correct one. So that's everything for the SIP song. Do you have any questions? If you have any questions, feel free to post it on the chat, guys. Where can I get access to this recording? So the previous modules recording is already available in the YouTube page under Leader Academy. But the recordings for these sessions will be uploaded to the same YouTube page after the 3 days of the basic certification training. Well, if there are no further questions, we can proceed further. So the next module that we are going to see about is setting up your team and the different status available and how you can route calls through your say, status availability and departments and things like that. So basically, the different profiles available or the basic profiles available on the 3.6 is available away and to notice it. And for example, you can set up your office hours like when you are set to available, then it follows the sorry, during office hours, it follows the available setting. Oops, sorry. And away is basically when you use it on break time, or the 3.6 can change it to away if you set predefine your break times, and do not disturb is basically out of office. And there is also like custom 1 and custom 2 setting, which you can make use of. For example, let's say you want a custom 1 setting for diversion. So you can directly change your status to custom 1 or diversion. And whenever you're on that status, the call can, or all calls will be diverted to a outside number or to a call queue or a different destination. Or custom 2, you can make use of that as well. So yeah, and changing profiles. So you can do it directly from your 3.6 app, or you can also do it from your 3.6 web client and also or your PWA client. And the users within the department administrator role can change statuses of other users. Let's say you are a manager and then you want to manage status. If you have like higher access on the 3.6, you have access to change the profile status of other users within your department as well. And so if you ask the question like, so only my customer only uses IP phones, so they do not use 3.6 app. So does that mean they cannot change it? They can still change it using the dial codes. So you can, for let's say they have a desk phone with BLF buttons, you can program those BLF buttons to like *30, and which is for available, and *31 for away, and *32 for DND. And so basically, yeah, so you can set the style codes onto a BLF so that the customer can change their profile status directly from there. Or if they don't want to set it up as a BLF, so they can, they need to remember to dial that particular dial code whenever they want to switch profile status. And yes, a BLF button or from within the voicemail menu. And you can also change profiles auto switch based on the time. So for example, in office, it will be say available, and during break, it's set to away, and out office, it's set to DND. And custom 1 and custom 2, so you cannot change it to a time sync. So you need to manually change it to custom 1 or custom 2. And yeah, so an Office 365 Google integration, you can also do a calendar sync or team sync. For example, let's say you're on a meeting or you're set to DND on your teams, it can automatically reflect the same profile status on your 3CX. And make sure the Office, the Microsoft and the Teams sync is available only on the dedicated license. It's not available on the free license. And forwarding rule option. So that is basically, so 3.6 gives you an option to set different routes for internal and external callers. Let's say you are a manager and or your customer is a manager or an MD for organization, and when they set them to like let's say away or when they're on a break, they don't want to take any internal calls, but they still want to set something like they want all the external calls needs to go to a voicemail, but he needs to still want to answer internal calls. So the 3.6 will has a 3.6 has that option. Basically, he can set calls like, for example, any calls from the external number needs to go to voicemail during a away status or DND status. But if it is an internal call, it needs to ring or ring my mobile number or forward the call to my mobile number or an external number. You can set something like that. So for different internal or external calls, the calls can be sent to voicemail or to the mobile number or to any external number. And also you can enable rebound for screening of the caller. So for example, if you enable rebound, it's going to announce that the call is going to be call is getting diverted or blah blah blah, like an automated message. Or if during internal calls, if you're an MD and then any calls you need to go to your assistants or something like that, so you can send it to another user in the same system, or you can directly end the call, or you can set it to end the call. So these are the different options available for the forwarding rules. And you can also like with the forwarding rule option, so you can also have a checklist which you can make use of if the customer needs it. So ring my mobile simultaneously. When that is enabled, so basically what happens is, so whenever you receive a call, it's going to bring your 36 app or desk phone as well as your mobile simultaneously. When I say mobile, it's not the 36 app on your mobile, your actual mobile number. So let's say so both the desk phone or the 36 app and the your mobile number will bring simultaneously, and whichever you answer first, the other side will get disconnected. Let's say you answer the call from your mobile number, the desk phone will cancel the call, and and vice versa. If you answer the call from your desk phone, it will cancel the call that's initiated to your mobile. And accept multiple calls. Let's say you are already on a, that's disabled by default. Let's say you're all let's say it's a reception scenario, and when they are on a call and the second call comes in, it will directly push to voicemail by default. But if you want the second call to ring as well, so you can enable the accept multiple calls. So what it does is, let's say I receive a call, I'm on a call, and the second call comes in, I can see that and it rings. So I can decide whether I want to decline that call, or I put my current call on a hold or on a share park and then pick the second call and answer. I'm on another call. Can you wait for a few minutes? I'll put you on hold, da da da, and then put them on hold, and then you can pick the first call again and continue through or anything. So basically, you can have multiple calls at the same time. And whenever you're on a call, so you can, or on a particular status, you can set the 360 log out from the call queues that you're on. And also like accept calls from ring groups and accept push notification. These are some default options that's available, which you can enable or disable depending on the client requirements. And forwarding rules per profile, so available. So basically, available and custom one follow same set of rules, and aware DND and custom 2 follows second set of rules. So because available in custom one, so you can the option available is like ring out after some time, and then it follows whatever it needs to do. For example, when I'm available, I want the call to ring me for 30 seconds. If I'm not answering the call for 30 seconds, then I want to route the call to like end the call or voicemail or to a different extension and so on. But away DND and custom 2, that's instantly triggered. So when I'm set to DND or away, and then I set the call to go to a different extension or end the call or voicemail, there is no ring timeout, it's instantly triggered. And also for external callers, so call deflection is possible for mobile or external numbers. And there are also like certain scenarios when forwarding rules do not apply. So that's basically from calls from ring group or call queue. So so let's say the call comes through the call queue and it rings the user. So if the status is available, the forwarding rules are ignored and it automatically ring the user, or if ring my mobile simultaneously is available, is enabled, then it also like ring the mobile phone of the user. And if it is set to away or DND, only forwarding to external number or mobile is allowed, so rebound calls will not be forwarded. And voicemail greetings. So this will help you to define like different greetings per profile. For example, let's say you're set to available and you haven't picked the call for 30 seconds and then it goes to voicemail. You can set up a different greeting, something like, I'm sorry, we are busy at the moment. Please leave a voice message and we'll get back to you. Or you set to DND, you can send a message like, sorry, I'm not available at the moment, or we are not available at the moment. We'll please leave a message, or we'll get back to you. And also like the profile overrides default greeting only for specific status, and the audio format needs to be WAV PCM 8K kilohertz 16-bit mono, and there is audio converter that's available directly on the 3.6 side. I'll show you how to use that and where to find it, because that makes things easier rather than going to a third-party converter and making sure it follows the right pattern. So you can just use the 3CX converter. Just go there, upload the file in any format, and then it's going to give you the file with the correct format that is accepted by the 3CX. So with the profile status, you can there is also something called exception. So for example, you want to block a particular call or from a particular time window, so you need to block all calls or send busy, or you need to forward to an outside number. You can set something like, so with the exception, so you have an option to like calls from a particular caller ID and received during after hours or particular office hours or in hours. So what it needs to do, either it needs to send busy or block the call or end the call, or let's say calls from a particular number needs to during any hours needs to be rejected or send busy always, or things like that. You can do it. And also like if you don't have a particular caller ID, so you can also use asterisk as the wildcard. So in the similar to the outbound rules, the order of the exception rules also matters. The order is checked from top to bottom. Let's say you have a so let's say you have two rules. The first rule set to like wildcard, like any calls during this particular office hours or any calls during in office hours, it needs to be sent to an outside number. And we have a second rule. Let's say calls from this particular number, I need to block it or end the call. So since the wildcard rule is at the first, what it does is it checks the first rule and it matches, and it will send the call directly to the user or to the outside number, depending on what it said. So yes, it doesn't go to the second rule. So the order you need to keep is you need to put the number that you want to block first, so that it checks that. If it is not that number, then it goes to the second one, because that's a wildcard rule. And you can add multiple rules, and depending on the client's requirement. Yeah. So with this, basically, yeah. So you can see when a call is coming in. So this is how the call flow looks like. So the incoming call to a user, it just first checks if there are any exceptions. So that's the hierarchy. So if there are no exceptions, so call comes in, it checks for exception. If there are no exceptions, then it checks whether the automatic switching is on, which is basically if the automatic switching is on, then it checks if it is available or away or DND and follows through which it needs to do. So for example, if it is available, it will automatically check, it will ring, and if no answer or busy, it then follows what it needs to do. If it is away, then it will check whether it's an internal or external call, and it's automatic instantly triggered. So it just follows internal call needs to where it needs to go, and or if it is an external call, where it needs to go. Similar for DND. And if automatic switching is off, and then they switch between custom 1 or custom 2, so it follows the same. So if it is custom 1, it will ring the user for a particular amount of time. That's set. And if no answer, it follows that option. And if busy, it follows that option. And if it is custom 2, it follows the internal or external directly from there. So that's basically how the call, so incoming call comes in, and it checks if there are any exception. If there are any exception, it follows that. If not, it just follows through which status it's set on, and it follows that routing. And yeah, so that's pretty much on the profile status and stuff. And let's have a quick demo. So yep, so that's the same 3.6 that we are working on So if I go to users and go to the same user, and if I go to call forwarding, I can see the different statuses available. So available away DND, that works on automatically switch between the office hours, and lunch and business trip are the custom one and custom two. You can see the options available in here, and the options available in here is different. So because away you have the timeout and it then checks what it needs to do, but away it's instantly triggered. And you can see available and lunch is similar because available lunch is basically follows similar criteria. So after ring timeout, it follows that. Lunch is custom one, but you can rename it. And away, DND and business trip are similar because all these three are instantly triggered. And business trip is custom too, but you can rename it. Let's look at available. You can give a custom message if you want, and let's say it rings the user for 30 seconds, and if no one picks the call, if it is external call, what it needs to do, voicemail, or it needs to go to my mobile or external number. Because I haven't configured mobile number in here, it's throwing that error. But if it is external, a call comes into my user and rings for 30 seconds. If no one picks the call, it needs to go to external number, or it needs to go to a call queue or things like that, or to a share pack, and you can set something like that. Or if it is an internal call, it needs to directly go to my mobile number or external number, and I want rebound enabled, and you can set something like that. And if it is busy or not registered, so if I'm already on a call and or my extension is not registered, what it needs to do for external or internal calls, you can set something like that. And these are the options. Since this is disabled because I don't have a mobile number set on the user level. But yeah, so ring my mobile, accept multiple calls, log out from call queues, accept calls from ring groups, and push notifications, and all those are available. And if you want to set up a specific greeting when you're set to available, you can add it in here. And away, so that's basically instantly triggered. So when I'm set to, like, let's say I'm on a break, and when someone calls, if it is an internal call, I want it to go to, sorry, internal call, I want to go to voicemail. If it is an external call, I need to send busy, or I want to send it to my mobile, and things like that. You can do that. And so log out from queues and that's similar. So DND and away are similar. So it's just different statuses. If I'm set to DND or outside office hours, it needs to follow different criteria. And lunch is similar to available. It's a custom one which you manually switch it, and you can switch it directly from here. And business trip is basically something similar to away or DND. And yeah, you can set up a different profile name, let's say diversion. And let's say if I'm set to diversion and all calls needs to forward to external number. So when I'm set to DND manually, or sorry, business trip or diversion manually, so it will automatically forward all calls to my external number. So you can set something like that directly from here. Exceptions. So this is where you can add an exception. Let's say any calls. So I'm putting the asterisk as the wildcard during specific hours. Let's say Saturday 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I need to send all the calls, even though regardless of what status I'm on, it needs to send the system extension conference or something like that. I can set it. Or if let's say I want to block a call, so I'd say calls from 618 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 during all hours. I need to send busy or things like that. So any calls from this number during any hours will send a busy tone. And you can select the rule, and if you want to move it up or down, so you can rearrange it. So make sure it always follow from top to bottom. So that's how it follows the order. That's everything on the profile status, and setting up your team. Do you have any questions? If you don't have any questions, let's take a quick 5-minute break and before jumping into the next module, which is departments. And yes, so if you have any questions, feel free to post it on the chat. If not, let's take a quick 5-minute break. And even if during the break, if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to post it on the chat, guys. Cool. If there are no further questions, we can continue to. So the next module that we are going to see about setting up your roles and departments. So basically, departments is a subcategory on, let's say, let's take leader as an example or breeze as an example. So we have different departments for sales, support, networking, and marketing, and all this stuff. So so we have like different departments created for that, and we put the users to the appropriate departments into there. And it doesn't need to be like a department. For example, we also have departments for Adelaide team, Melbourne team, Sydney team, and things like that. So you can put departments because having a department helps you like not configure like office hours to each and every user. So you can put, let's say, all the Adelaide users under one department and set office hours for that department, and that basically helps you that's basically going to reflect that same office as for all the users on the department rather than setting office as per user. So add users to the department. The user can be a single user can be part of like multiple departments. Let's say I'm part of the technical team, sales team, as well as the Adelaide team. So I'll be in all the departments, and if I'm the system administrator or the department administrator, I have access to like view all my users and change status and things like that directly on the department. Also, it's possible for a user within a department to see other users and perform actions on other users, like changing profile, logging in and logging out of the user from a queue, and things like that. And roles. So there are 7 available roles, and it's ordered from least higher priority to the lower. And the user is basically has the lower access levels, and system owner is the highest one. And basically, whenever you're creating a new system, the first user that's created will be a system owner, and a system owner have access to create other system owners or set other users below or to have to be as a system owner. And let's say if I'm an owner, have access to set or I can create users, as well as I can set any other the particular user or change other users any roles below my access level or hierarchy level. So I can set other users as a department admin or manager, receptionist, or user, and things like that. So system owner has the full admin access, like overall access. And the next one is system admin, owner, department admin, manager, receptionist, and user. So user has all the basic access, but a receptionist has more features like they can also like transfer a call, put a call on park, or also like see other users or change status of other users and things like that. And the function that the other users can do like moves from top to bottom. And role of a system owner. So on new installation, the first user created will be a system owner and can elevate user to the system admin or can elevate user to system owner for dedicated service only. So it's not available for free instances and requires a unique email address. The reason why it requires a unique email address is, let's say you have a system owner with an email, let's say help@breezeconnect.com.au, admin@breezeconnect.com.au, and you also have a receptionist with the same email as admin@breezeconnect.com.au. Let's say for some reason you missed the password or forget the password. When you do forget password option and you try to reset the email from using help@breezeconnect.com.au, the 36 will not know which user for it need to reset to. So is it for the system owner or for the receptionist? So it won't send any welcome email or a password reset email to both the users. So at that time, you will lose access to the system. So it's always recommended, or to keep in mind, you use a unique email, at least for the system owner user. And department view, so yeah, so it can be viewed on a per user basis, and you can give rights to see users or perform operations in other departments. I'll show these stuff during the demo while going through. And department publishing is basically you can make all extension visible to everyone, or you can set it like no calls visible or no control actions and things like that whenever you're creating a new department. And officers is basically you can define department officers or global officers, and you can set in officers, break time, out officers, and also like in officers, the system will set to be available, and break times the user will be set to, or users in the department will be set to away, and out of officers to DND. And also you can alter the behavior of the department or the system extensions or the users based on the department is set to. And call routing, so DIDs are routed at the destination directly. You can set the DID to route to a particular department, and when it's set to a particular department, all the users in the department will receive the call. And or you can set it to a particular user or to a system extension. And time defined by the department hours and holidays, and that plays a crucial part in here. And officers within the PBX, the user officers override the department officers. So let's say you have different officers for let's take we have an office or department created for Melbourne, but a particular user starts late and finish late, or starts early and finish early. So, and they have a particular officer set on the user level, so that basically overrides whatever is on the department officers. So you can have a different officers for all the users on the department, but a particular user wants to follow a different officer. So you can set that on the user level. That basically overrides whatever is set on the department. And department holidays. So yeah, so if you have like offices in different states, and each state has different holidays, you can set specific office hours for a single day or a full day or a range of days on annual basis. And you can also set that of the holiday only follows through particular departments when it's set to holiday mode. And user profile switching. So yes, so this is what I previously mentioned. In office it's set to available, break times away, and outside office it's set to DND. The user behaves based on active profiles forwarding rules, and the user profiles will not automatically change. The profile is set to custom owner, custom to, as mentioned previously. So away, available, DND are automatic switching on. And if you set some user on custom owner, custom to, or business trip or lunch or diversion or anything, you need to manually switch it to the other one to have the automatic switching on. If not, it's going to stay in that particular profile until someone changes it. And yeah, so correct officers. So basically, you can set up a opening and closing times and break times cannot be identical. And between closing and opening times, the department is out of office hours. And so the correct way to set is, so let's take this one as an example. You can set only one break time between two closed hours. And let's say you need to have like 2 breaks or 3 breaks in between opening and closing time. In that scenario, what you can do is you can set the office is open and closed at from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and you can set a break in between. So that's considered as a break, and break 2 and break 3. You can have another close time at 11 o'clock, and that is another break time. So this helps. This is something that you can make use of if there are like two different rosters available for a particular customer or a customer's organization. But you cannot set like two or more breaks between a single open and close hours. So that's something you need to make sure. So that's you cannot set something like that. Do you have any questions, guys? If not, let's continue to the demo. So department. So if I go to department, so this is where I can create a department. For example, I can create something called support department. If I want to use the global prompt or specific prompt, I can do it, or department language. And if I want to publish this department information to all extensions or don't want, so I can do that from here and click OK. And from here, I can add or remove user. For example, I want to add the admin user, and I will add another user, user 2, and I set them as a receptionist. And also you can set main department membership from here. So whether I want to put the main department as default or support, I can directly select it from here and click save. And if I go to department, if I go to support, user 2 is automatically added because I've added them directly from the on the user level itself. And you can see as an admin, I have access to bargain or listen or whisper or see presence, see calls, call operations and things like that. And also like user 2 can only like show my calls and things, show my calls, but they cannot bargain, but they have other things. The reason why it's grayed out is because my main department, the user that I'm logged in, the user admin, is not set to the default. But if I change to support and save, and if I go to departments, and if I go here, and you can also have the options to like re-enable all those. And if I go to the user receptionist, and if I go to view, and I can see like for this particular user, I don't want to show my calls, or I don't want to see presence. But the default group, I want them to see presence, see calls and call operations, but not user operation. I can set something like that. If I go to the department again, that will get, sorry. Sorry, if I go to the user level, so the department, I can see since I've removed the option for them to see presence and see calls, that's removed, and I can only see the call operation, user operation directly from here. And when I go to office hours, so it gives me the office hours I can set for default hours. And for support, it's by default it's set to the default hours, but you can change it to, let's say they're based in Victoria or something. And I can set the office hours, let's say from 8 to 5, 8 to 5 p.m. And I can also set something that, and if I clear this, delete, so that basically during Saturday and Sunday there are no opening hours. And if I want to add a break, so I can add a break like from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. I want to add a break. So that's basically from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. the office is open, and from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. the office is in break, and from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. again. So it goes to in-office routing and things like that. And office holidays I can directly add from here. So I can set something like let's say Christmas single day, that is December 25 from 12 a.m. the whole day, I can select it. And if I want a different prompt that I want to add, I can add it and then save. And that's it. So that's basically like how you can create different departments, and there is no limitation. You can create as many departments that you want, and you can set which is the main department. And also a user can be part of multiple departments. You can see default group user admin is also a part, and also the support team is also a part. So even with the user admin, I can see the and add and remove users and stuff. And office hours, that can also set up default globally, or you can set up per department and it follows things like that. And you need to make sure the office hours, if you've set off, so if you go to a user, let's say reception 2, and if I go to call forward, yeah. So basically when you want to set office hours for here, so you go to scheduling and you can see the extension uses default offices, or if I want to use just for this user specific office hours, and they doesn't work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they work just Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 9 to 6 p.m. I can add that directly and I click save. And also if I go, you also have the option like automatically switch status during office hours if I enable that and save. So basically, now it's not going to follow the support departments or the default departments officers. It's just going to follow this particular officers. That's how you can set up officers specifically for a particular user. And what if you're having a specific officers for the user, that's going to override what was on the default or global officers. So that is pretty much everything for everything. And also with the users, since I'm a system owner, I can give them access to or set a role for the other users to anything. If let's say I'm a system department administrator or so, I can only set up to them as a receptionist or a user, like the new users created or things like that. And yep, so that is pretty much everything for today's modules. Do you have any questions, guys? If there are no further questions, we can wind up the session for today. And yes, so tomorrow we have the third day of the or the last day of the 3 basic certification training. And around end of the session, I'll give you some tips and tricks and how to crack the exam and how the questions will be and things like that. But yeah, so if you have no further questions, we can wind up the session for today. I'll stay here for another 5 to 10 minutes in case if you have any questions. Thanks everyone for attending.